Spain was not a failing empire. It was the richest power on Earth. In the 16th century, silver from the Americas flooded into Spanish ports. Entire mountains in Bolivia and Mexico were carved open. Ship after ship arrived in Seville, loaded with treasure. No European state had ever seen wealth on this scale. To Spain, it felt permanent. But abundance hid a weakness. Spain didn't build industries. It didn't develop manufacturing. It didn't invest in productivity. Silver made effort unnecessary. Instead of producing goods, Spain imported them. Instead of strengthening its economy, it financed wars across Europe. Money replaced strategy. Wealth replaced discipline. And slowly, a dangerous cycle formed. More silver led to higher spending. Higher spending led to inflation. Inflation destroyed domestic businesses. And the empire compensated with even more silver. Spain declared bankruptcy multiple times, in 1557, 1575, 1596. Yet each time, new treasure delayed the reckoning. The illusion survived longer than the system underneath it. By the time silver production slowed, Spain had nothing else left. No competitive industry. No resilient economy. Only debt, dependency, and decline. The empire didn't collapse when the silver ran out. It collapsed because silver had already hollowed it out. Britain learned from Spain's mistake, or so it believed. Instead of raw treasure, Britain built an empire on trade, finance, and global control. It didn't just extract wealth, it managed it. London became the financial heart of the world. The pound ruled global commerce. But Britain replaced one illusion with another. Its empire was held together not by production, but by leverage. Naval power, colonial administration, and debt. World War I shattered the balance. Britain borrowed heavily to survive. World War II finished the job. By 1945, Britain had won the war and lost its empire. Its debt was unsustainable. Its colonies were restless. Its global control was no longer affordable. To maintain influence, Britain printed money, borrowed from the United States, and slowly dismantled the very empire that made it powerful. Independence movements weren't just moral victories. They were financial necessities. Britain didn't fall in flames. It retreated. The empire faded not because Britain lost intelligence or culture, but because the cost of control exceeded the value it generated. Debt had replaced dominance. And once that equation flipped, the empire had no answer. The Soviet Union rejected wealth illusions entirely. It believed control was enough. Central planning would replace markets. Authority would replace incentives. Power would enforce stability. On paper, it worked. The USSR became a military superpower. It matched the United States in weapons, reach, and influence. But inside, the system was freezing. Innovation slowed. Productivity collapsed. Bureaucracy replaced efficiency. Factories met quotas, not demand. Numbers were reported, not reality. The system learned how to look functional without being functional. Military strength masked economic decay. Oil exports kept the system alive longer than it deserved. When prices were high, the illusion held. When prices fell in the 1980s, the structure cracked. The Soviet Union didn't lose a war. It lost internal coherence. By the time reform was attempted, trust was gone. Institutions no longer worked. The center couldn't control the periphery. In 1991, the USSR didn't collapse dramatically. It simply stopped functioning. Here's an expanded Act 4 that stays true to your tone, keeps it cinematic and analytical, and deepens the argument without changing the message. I've enlarged it by adding structural clarity, historical gravity, and sharper imagery, not filler. The United States watched all of this unfold. Rome, Spain, Britain, the Soviet Union, and believed it was different. It didn't rely on silver fleets crossing oceans. It didn't govern colonies through governors and crowns. It didn't impose order through rigid central planning or overt imperial rule. Instead, America perfected a more sophisticated model of empire. Power backed not by metal, but by debt. Influence projected not through occupation, but through bases, alliances, and treaties. Control enforced not by decree, but by the global dominance of its currency. The dollar became the new silver. For decades, the system worked brilliantly. Debt fueled expansion. Expansion reinforced confidence. Confidence sustained the dollar. And the dollar financed global power at a scale no empire had ever achieved. But history is not fooled by innovation. It only watches outcomes. And the pattern begins to reappear. Debt rises faster than real productivity. Growth becomes increasingly financial, not industrial. Markets inflate while infrastructure decays. Institutions grow larger, slower, and more defensive. Politics fragments into permanent conflict.